Hello and welcome. I'm Fahd Husain. It has been a whirlwind 24 hours in the diplomatic standoff between the US and Iran, and for the first time in a long time, the word on everyone's lips is peace. According to a report by Axios, we are hearing that a one-page memorandum of understanding is close to being signed. It is a simple high-level document, but it represents a bridge between two sides that have been on the brink for months. Now, it has not been a perfectly smooth ride. President Donald Trump did send out a tweet earlier mentioning that he was ready to resume bombing if things did not go his way. He said, assuming Iran agrees to give what has been agreed to, which is perhaps a big assumption, the already legendary epic fury will be at an end, and the highly effective blockade will allow the Hormuz Strait to be open to all, including Iran. If they don't agree, the bombing starts, and it will be, sadly, at a much higher high level and intensity than it was before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, as he always signs off. The general feeling is that this is more about leverage than a change in direction. In fact, the tone from other key players in Washington like Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth has been surprisingly conciliatory. They are signaling that the military objectives have largely been met and that the preferred path forward is now through a deal rather than more strikes. On the other side, Iran is keeping its diplomatic engines running at full speed. The foreign minister is currently in China to shore up support, and there have been significant phone calls made to the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia. It looks like Tehran is trying to ensure its regional neighbors and global partners are all on the same page before any ink hits the paper. But if you want to know where the heart of this deal is beating, you have to look right here at home. Once again, all roads lead to Islamabad. Our mediation efforts have been the glue holding this entire process together. We have been the ones in the middle, getting both the Americans and the Iranians to actually sit down and talk. It is our tireless work as the primary bridge between these two powers that has turned a high-stakes military conflict into a hopeful diplomatic opening. We are not across the finish line yet, but the momentum seems real. After a very tense period, there is renewed hope that a lasting peace is finally within reach, and that is a direct result of our efforts right here in Pakistan. So to now have a discussion on where the latest situation stands, we are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Victor J. Willey is joining us from Geneva. He's a senior advisor on Middle East geopolitics and economy with almost more than 25 years of experience at the World Economic Forum, also at the University of Oxford. He's an author of a landmark study on Muslim Brotherhood, and he also heads a think tank in Switzerland and focuses on the Middle East. So we are very grateful that you're joining us. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Willey, after many tense days, we are now hoping that there could be some important and positive development, because there are reports coming in that Iran and the US might be very close to a one-page memorandum of understanding in which they may be able to find common ground. I know that it's still not confirmed, but what are your initial thoughts as somebody who's been following these events very closely? Do you think that this could be the breakthrough that the entire world has been waiting for?
I actually believe so, and the reason is because if you look at the course of the war that in a few days now, we came from passed through different phases, and we came from this very sort of regime change phase. Like, there will be a popular uprising, the regime will fall. We passed, if you remember, 2 months ago, we had that sort of discourse. That then didn't happen. The regime survived. We had then the sort of a narrative of a quick victory. So the focus shifted from regime change to specific military objectives, such as the missile threats and the nuclear risks. We then came through a reframing sort of phase. We are winning versus we may escalate kind of thing. And in between, of course, all these Trump tweets about civilizational erasure and so on. And now we're sort of in an endgame narrative where the administration is under pressure. The reason why I'm saying is that we're coming to the end of it is because we now passed the 1st of May 2026, which marks 60 days since the beginning of the Iran conflict. And under the 1973 War Powers Resolution, the president at this stage is required to seek formal congressional authorization for military action or otherwise withdraw. And this is why he also formally notified Congress that the war was terminated. So the administration, the other factor, if I just may mention this quickly, the other factor is that the ammunition is depleted. And by ammunition, I mean these rockets and these interceptors. And now we're getting into a scenario where weapons delivery of the United States to other allies such as Taiwan or Ukraine or European allies is being delayed because of the depletion of the arsenals in the Gulf. And so, when you have a trench warfare with soldiers on each side of the trench, but the ammunition is running out, necessarily the war is coming to an end. So this is why I'm thinking we can be optimistic that at least that phase of that conflict, might be over.
I mean, one thing was clear, Dr. Willie, that this war was becoming unaffordable for both sides. And there's a question of which side could last longer and bear more pain. And obviously now, if we are close to an agreement, that means that both have almost found some common ground which allows them, both of them, to declare victory or to tell their own constituency that they've done well. Now, I'm looking at these reports. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're still coming from unnamed sources, so we have to factor that in. But the report from Axios, also from Reuters, they're saying that among the provisions, the deal would involve Iran committing to a moratorium on nuclear enrichment, the US agreeing to lift its sanctions and release billions of frozen Iranian funds, and both sides lifting restrictions around transit through the Strait of Hormuz. So basically, it comes down to what Iran agrees on in terms of their nuclear program and what Donald Trump can call his victory. If this is where they can find something common, I think the rest are all details.
Yes, I mean, of course, for the United States, as well as especially for Israel, we should also not forget that factor there.
Yeah.
But of course, the nuclear weapon is a non-negotiable thing, and for the Iranian side is an issue of national pride, that nuclear program. So a moratorium would allow the Iranians to kind of leave the door open to at someday develop a new nuclear program, or I mean they have a nuclear program, but at someday enrich uranium, and it's not about also about electricity and so on. So that would satisfy that side. And of course, a lifting of the sanctions would allow Trump to say now, Iran is ready for business, and something along these lines. We should also not forget that, because we're talking a lot about Iran now, but we should also not forget, in 10 days, Trump will travel to Beijing to meet with President Xi. And this is a very important summit that moved from the end of March to now mid-May. It's a very important deal for both sides, but for President Trump particularly, it means a sale of a large number of Boeing aircrafts. It means a deal on soybeans. It means probably a larger trill. It means a victory potentially a foreign policy victory that he can bring back to his constituencies and maybe even go back into this narrative as the great deal maker. So I just want to say that there is the 60 days since the war started. There is the other deadline, which is the Trump Xi visit. And so, we should also understand what happens now in Iran against the backdrop of the larger geopolitical overarching framework, which is US-China strategic competition, which has not gone anywhere, although it's a little bit more dormant. But that's the geopolitical reality.
And of course, we also should keep in mind that the Iranian foreign minister was in Beijing. He met his Chinese counterpart. So China is, of course, also playing a very important role, not coming on the forefront, but pushing, I think, Iran and most likely the US also to come closer. And I think that might be, one of the reasons why Iranians might be closer to coming to a deal. I want to ask you also about, if this deal comes through, then what happens? What kind of an Iran would we see? But before that, I just want to mention something, and I want to take your opinion on that. It's been a very difficult time for Pakistan also. As the frontline mediator, started off as a facilitator, became a mediator, and then I think after the first ceasefire, our role became even more important, not just in terms of, when we were hosting both sides here in Islamabad, but even after that, when the talks didn't produce anything. Behind the scenes, I know for a fact that, it's been a very tense time, facilitating or talking to both sides at a time when the level of distrust between the US and Iran is so high. So for Pakistanis, it's been a very challenging time, but I think we've done well. We've persevered. We've, stayed at it. And hopefully something will come out. So as somebody who's been looking at this so closely, I wanted to have your feedback on the role that we've played.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, Pakistan has played a fantastic role. I mean, I say this with a little bit of jealousy, being Swiss, because usually that would have been our role, but now it's Pakistan, and it's well deserved. And I think, Pakistan is playing a very interesting role. When you talk to business people, you hear sometimes the acronym MENAP, Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. And actually, this has some sort of political validity now as well, because somehow Pakistan has been entering, not just with this recent negotiation, also with the agreement with Saudi Arabia. Pakistan is being drawn more into that region diplomatically. But just coming back to China quickly, we should also, of course, understand Pakistan against the backdrop of China. I mean, when we look at, for example, the recent war or short conflict with India, we've seen the Pakistani Air Force kind of winning against the Indian Air Force, and therefore basically Chinese manufactured aircraft against I think French or maybe American manufactured. So there is also a little bit of that, okay? And so if we talk about this whole theater of activity in that part of Asia, then yes, Pakistan is starting to play a very interesting role, and now of course also has proven that it can pull off a negotiation of that kind. I mean, I imagine this is not an easy feat to get these people together. The difficulties that you mentioned, the security, the protocol, the geopolitical difficulties. So congratulations to Pakistan, I have to say that.
Thank you so much for those words. They mean a lot. And hopefully, I mean, it's just me. I'm just saying that, if this some deal happens in the next day or two, what we are hearing, of course, we don't know anything. President Trump, as you said, is going on a very important trip to China next week. So it would be nice if we can just make a stopover, come to Islamabad, sign some agreements, and then fly off to China. I don't think that will be such a bad thing to do.
No, of course, it is always preferable to have peace than to have war. I mean, on the other hand, a peace has to hold, and so it has to be based on a real recognition of mutual interests, etc. And every side has to feel that it's a fair peace. But I mean, if so, I think that the China American negotiation will play into this on some level. I don't think that the Iran U.S. deal is going to be in isolation. But of course, you know, it will be great if and I really hope it happens. There's we had enough war in the Middle East, and that we can move towards a more positive reconstruction agenda.
Absolutely. I think we are all hoping for that and looking forward to that. And we're also looking forward to having you again on our show at some point, Dr. Victor Willi. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and hearing your analysis.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
So here's the situation now. We need to figure out, or we'll try and figure out, how we have reached a stage where suddenly there is renewed hope. We have to be careful. This is not the first time that we feel that we are close to something. But still, after the last 48 hours when it appeared that things were really going south, now there is some guarded, cautious optimism that things may be working out. And of course, Pakistan is once again in the news. President Trump has mentioned Pakistan twice, and now there are chances that the latest proposal will also be routed through Pakistan. So we've persevered, we've stuck it out, we've gone through a lot of uncertainty, but here we are, still at it, still trying to help US and Iran to somehow find an off-ramp from this conflict. So let's take a look at how Pakistan has been doing this, I would call it a mission impossible, almost. We don't have a Tom Cruise here, maybe we do, I don't know, but it has been mission impossible. How did we navigate through this difficult terrain? I'm joined by two people, two very senior, important journalists who keep a very close eye on how things move in Islamabad, and also why they don't move when they don't move. Kamran Yusuf is my first guest, one of the most well-known journalists covering foreign policy. Of course, he writes for the Express Tribune, he does a show for Express News in Urdu, also in English, so a man of multiple talents. Welcome to our show. And Anas Malik, of course, young journalist who's really made a name for himself in covering foreign policy. He's currently associated with Asia One News. He's the bureau chief for his channel and also has been reporting regularly. Welcome also, Anas. Kamran, so I know that, you know, whenever we feel that something is happening, something goes wrong. So I don't think we should jump the gun.
Yes.
But what are you hearing? Is there actually cause for some optimism that things may be moving towards a positive outcome?
I think so. Although President Trump said that he used the word big assumption.
Yes.
Even when President Trump says that I'm assuming that Iran now may accept whatever the terms of agreement that they are looking for. But you know, optimism, why? Because even at the start of the week, I also mentioned that this is a crucial week, I believe. The reason, one, that both sides, they are not really keen to go back to war. That is absolutely clear. Stakes are too high. Forget about the posturing. Second, of course, that very soon US President Trump will be traveling to Beijing, and this is going to be a very important visit. And I think it is an open secret that President Trump would like to close this Iran war before going to meet President Xi. So there are multiple factors. So why now I am more optimistic? If you just see the developments that are so far happening, now we are talking about, the American media is reporting a one-pager MOU.
Yeah.
And if you closely look at the MOU, it appears that why I'm optimistic, because it is more close to the Iranian position, because what they wanted a step-by-step approach, not a quick fix agreement. They wanted first a framework. So let's first discuss and agree on reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, whether from the Iranian side or the US naval blockade, and then we can discuss broader nuclear issues, sanctions, and all those things. So what we are hearing now, that it appears that the US has agreed to the Iranian, sort of demand, and we just also heard that the Iranian Foreign Ministry has confirmed, yes, that they have received the proposal and they are reviewing it, and soon they will be responding to Pakistan's proposal. So given the statements coming from both sides, so barring any miracles, I do expect that this process should reach its logical end.
I think it makes sense because everything seems to be pointing towards that. And that's, I want to talk a bit about Pakistan, because after the first round here, where we all spent sleepless nights at the convention center, after that, it's been a difficult time. Both countries, US and Iran, almost came to war. We had to negotiate a ceasefire twice, and almost, now this is the third time. So I'm sure there must have been a lot of frustration here in Islamabad, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of tension, because you don't know where things were going. You've been tracking how Pakistani officials have been following this. Give us an idea of what was going through the minds of the decision makers, what was happening in the Foreign Office, what was happening in other places, and what was the kind of stress, what kind of stress were they under?
First of all, thank you so much, Fahd, for having me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor for me. I think there has what the decision makers or the policy makers, they've never left hope. And I think that has been the key driving factor to what my understanding is. Since this the process stalled on the 12th of April, it hit a roadblock, it hit a snag, it did not derail. So, of course, for that roadblock, I was in Antalya when the foreign minister said on the record that 80% of this dispute was resolved during the talks that were held on the 11th and 12th of April, and 20% was the wedge, and they were trying to stitch it up together. But as days passed by, hours turned into days turned into weeks, and now we're close to a month now. I think what was happening was that the distrust and mistrust that has been sowed in for the past 47 years, that kept on taking more and more space, and that was the bigger concern for Islamabad and the negotiating team in Islamabad. So they were trying to wedge that gap, to bridge that gap basically, and that is the reason we saw that visit of the Pakistani Army Chief Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir, an unprecedented 3-day visit, a very risky visit, but in the interest of peace. And as a consequence of that, we saw that the key ask, which was during that first round of negotiations with regards to a ceasefire in Lebanon, where it thought, the
that
thought
was a tough one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we had to sort out both the fronts.
Absolutely. So that happened, and then the unfortunate event of MV Tuska that took place, and then very recently we saw. So the ask that has been on the part of the Iranian side was the removal of the naval blockade. I think we're very close now. We're very close to a complete removal of the blockade, but as they say, so close yet so far. We're waiting an Iranian response. The American side has maneuvered closer to the Iranian position, but it's not a maneuverism in silo. It's the mediators that have been pushing them or trying to bring them closer to such a position. And I think in the next 24 hours or so, we would be expecting a response.
Hopefully.
So
but actually that's an important point, Kamran. Pakistan's role, in the initial days, when the news broke, it was more like everybody said we are facilitators. We're just telling them, come sit here, we'll serve you good tea, maybe hot pakoras, and you have a gup shop and then you go. But from that point till today, our role has also evolved. It's grown bigger, from facilitator to mediator, and now I think probably mediator plus. We are much. So how have you seen this evolution, and how have we managed that?
I think quite surprising and unbelievable, because you are absolutely right that when Pakistan's name came up first, that we are willing to facilitate seeking de-escalation intentions between Iran and the US. And in the past, we also tried to, whether it was a conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia and other conflicts. But often we, in the past, boasted about our role. In this case, I think it is absolutely amazing that it is not just that Pakistan is, facilitating, not only now acting as a mediator, but actually influencing the actual discussions that are taking place, trying to bridge the differences between the two countries. We are not just only exchanging messages between the two countries, but also if there are differences, and of course there are huge differences, we are telling them, look, that if we take this route, and the clear example of that, of course, we know that this so-called Project Freedom of President Trump really threatened to derail this entire process, and Pakistan jumped in along with several other countries, and today Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also gave a lot of credit to Saudi Arabia as well. And then Trump said that on the request of Pakistan and other countries, I have paused this so-called Project Freedom. So that shows the kind of influence, and that too on a president who usually never listens to people. So this is so amazing, and I think the credit must go to leadership, the way we actually handled this entire episode. And the more important thing is that the way we actually understood both the leadership and the decision makers in Washington as well as in Tehran. This is also very important, that you actually understand the personalities and the characters of the people who are dealing with those matters. So that also played a huge part, but still I think it's a history in the making.
It is.
And we have played way above our weight, I think punched above our weight, absolutely. I think
we'll have to wait for stories from both of you to actually figure out what happened. These stories will come sooner rather than later, and hopefully sooner. But Anas, quickly, at the end now, we talked about this role and trying to find some common ground between Washington and Tehran, but also, as Kamran was saying, also managing Saudi Arabia and Iran, who are lobbying, well, Saudi Arabia wasn't lobbing missiles, but the being attacked. Then UAE, then Turkey, then China, and also Qatar. So, I mean, this was literally, it was like, there's one juggler and 7 balls in the air at the same time. I don't think we've had this kind of a diplomatic stress test before.
Never. I think this was a first, and this has been a first. Pakistan in its individual capacity has been handling or managing different relationships. When the Saudi-Iran rift was there, Pakistan was walking that tightrope. The US-China tightrope they've been walking, and so on and so forth. But never has there been that multiple, I mean, at a time you've got multiple fronts and you've got to manage all that. But just to add to what Kamran was saying, I think what Islamabad has done in a more in a more exemplary manner was to ensure the sanctity of the negotiations has to be intact, and that's what they made sure that they are.
When you say sanctity, what do you mean?
That there are no leaks. I've covered Ukraine-Russia negotiations in Istanbul. I've covered Taliban-Hamas negotiations in Doha. I've covered US-Taliban negotiations in Doha. I've covered the Tigray negotiations. You would always, and of course, by the way, the Iran-US negotiations both in Oman and in Geneva. You'd have these calculated leaks coming in somehow, these unnamed sources which were from the host country. Here, we've not seen anything. And I think that is what has really poised that trust in Tehran and in DC, that things are going right. Islamabad is not the one which is manipulating the press. If there is a leak, if there is some manipulation in public sphere, some psyops that has to be done, that has to be done by the relevant parties and their capitals. Islamabad has no stake in it.
Very important point. Well, I'm glad that we are here, and again, as I said, that we are all keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that work out very well. When they do, of course, I'm going to invite you back to celebrate, but let's not celebrate right now. Let's hope for the best. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll take a break here, and then when we come back, of course, it's been 1 year since we hammered India that night. How did that happen, and what happens if there's a next round? That after the break. So it has been 1 year. Much has been learnt by everybody, especially by the Indians. The bigger question today is, where do we go from here? How prepared are we? Because the way things are between India and Pakistan, we should be ready for some other misadventure. This is a topic for a professional to comment upon, which is why we have invited today one of the most professional military officers that I know of. Air Marshal retired Asim Suleiman is my guest today, one of the most distinguished officers of the Pakistan Air Force. He has served in all important assignments. He is currently the president of the Center for Aerospace and Security Studies. He is also a regular writer and commentator. And of course, very importantly for today's discussion, he not only is he a graduate of the Combat Commanders School, which we called the Top Gun of Pakistan, he's also an instructor, so obviously an ace pilot. And I want to really draw upon his experience both as a senior commander and as a fighter pilot to figure out where things are going from here. Air Marshal Asim, welcome to our show.
Assalamu alaikum ji, and thank you very much for having me on your program.
Always a pleasure. So it's been 1 year, sir. 1 year since we gave a royal thrashing to the Indian Air Force. And now, after a year, even the Indians are now grudgingly acknowledging, though not publicly, but I know privately they're acknowledging what happened that night when the PF downed 6, 7, 8, 9, I don't know how many Rafales. The bigger question today, of course, we all know what we're very proud of the way that the Pakistan Air Force defeated a far bigger enemy. But the bigger question now today, for me at least, is where do we go from here? Because my point being, Marshal Asim, that we caught them by surprise that night. They didn't realize how well trained we were, how well prepared we were, what kind of fighting multi-domain capabilities we had, how we had invested in improving our Air Force. And they underestimated us, they paid a price for it. Now they know. So where do we go from here, knowing that now we don't have the element of surprise that we did a year ago?
If I would like to take you back in history a little, the legacy of the Pakistan Air Force. Our legacy has been our training, it has been our technology, and it has been our leadership. And because of that, Pakistan Air Force has been performing extremely well against the Indians. 1965 war we did well, 1971 even better kill ratios that we had than the Indians. And to date, if you look back at history, Pakistan Air Force has not lost a single aircraft to Indians since 1971 war. It's a very big achievement. And against this record, the Indians have lost about 5 aircraft to Pakistan. So knowingly that the Pakistan Air Force had an edge over the Indians, what the Indians did was they started to invest in their Air Force. When you look at the budget of Pakistan Armed Forces, it is around 9 to 10 billion. Indian budget is over 90 billion. If you look at the Air Force budget, it's around 1.8 to 2 billion. And when you look at the budget of the Indian Air Force, it is more than 37 billion. So with this kind of money, the Indians were investing very heavily in their technology, they were investing in their aircraft, missiles, and then their air defense systems. So the Indians actually, in my reckoning, had a very little surprise, because they knew that they were facing an enemy who has not lost a single aircraft to them since 1971, and they were well prepared. And this investment which they did really made a lot of difference in 2020 when the Indians inducted the Rafales. Pakistan Air Force lost its first look first shoot capability to the Meteor missile, and now Pakistan did not have that first look first shoot capability also. So the Indians actually went or wanted to go against Pakistan in any skirmish with an upper hand of having a very strong Air Force. But all of these things changed in 2021 when Air Chief Marshal Babar Sidhu took over the Air Force command, and he started to make or convert the Pakistan Air Force into the next generation Air Force. In that, he introduced multi-domain operations psychology and the architecture in which we started to have our own indigenously made cyber capability, EW, space, UAVs, and many other capabilities which gave us a very big advantage over the Indians. So now we go into Markeha. On the 6th and 7th, 2025, May, the Indians, they attacked Pakistan, not knowing what was coming for them. And as you said, that it was a very big surprise for them. In that, they actually, if you analyze the situation, the backbone of the Indian Air Force was broken within 1 hour. And they lost 8 aircraft. Out of them, 1 was a drone and 7 aircraft, which included 4 Rafales, 1 MiG-29, Su-30 and Mirage 2000. Having lost a very large number of aircraft within 1 hour was not a joke. It was something earth-shaking. And the Indians really learned their lesson of lifetime. And what happened? They grounded their air force. It was down for 48 hours. And now the Indians were not able to attack Pakistan. They were not even coming 300 kilometers near the Pakistan-India border. So this was a kind of limitation the Indians were put into, and which was acknowledged by the Indian leadership also.
But now,
what lesson learned?
I want to move forward and see where do we stand today, and where do they stand today?
Yes. So there were certain lessons learned, and their lessons learned were that first of all, it was the MDO, the multi-domain operations, which were the main factor which caused the surprise for the Indians. So they knew now that for their future, they have to have something like multi-domain operations. Then the other lesson they learned was that there is no space of war for limited war in a nuclear overhang. This is also one of the main lessons which the Indians learned. Then the indigenization. Actually, the Indians have always been talking or propagating Make in India. Actually, Make in India did not deliver. This is one of the biggest lessons that the Indians learned, that their own indigenous homegrown capability was not good enough, or neither their imported technology and modernization was not enough. So this was another lesson which the Indians learned. And then the most important thing is the future is now non-contact warfare. Non-contact warfare
Marshal Azam, let me just quickly jump in here so that we can just focus a little bit more. Excellent points that you've raised. Now, what I really want to know now is that they've learned from the defeat that they got, and they're trying to improve themselves. I'm sure that the weaknesses that they've been able to identify, many of them which you just rightly pointed out, they would be working very hard to somehow overcome them. I don't know how much they can do with this current air chief that they have, because in my personal opinion, after that massive defeat of that night, he should either have been fired or he should have resigned. But anyways, he's still there. So what if they're trying to improve themselves in the last 1 year? I'm sure, in fact, I'm confident that so are we. We are also learning from that night, and I'm sure that we've spent the last 1 year trying to make sure that the performance, the ability, the capability of our Air Force goes even higher than where it was a year ago. So if the next battle happens, we are still far ahead of them despite their improvement. So I'm sure that you could speak a little bit about how we are also constantly improving our capability.
Yes, I will come to that a little later. I wanted you actually, as you interjected, so I was talking about the Indians. The Indians have actually have made a plan which was last year, towards the end of the year, they made a plan for 2035. The 2035 plan says that they have to integrate all of their capabilities so that they can be integrated and can be used as a one focused force. So that was one plan. And now this year, the Indians have come up with another plan. that is 2047 plan. The 2047 plan says that they are going to have multi-domain operations and capabilities what the Pakistan Air Force had or we had practically demonstrated in 2025. So this is where the Indians are, that they are wanting to integrate themselves for future and get to the capabilities the Pakistanis displayed in 2025. And that plan they have, that they plan to achieve by 2047. So now this is the way the Indians are looking at their future. They are trying to integrate and then they get onto to multi-domain operations and perform as the Pakistani Armed Forces did. So this is the future of the Indian Air Force and the Indian Armed Forces. This is what they are looking forward to. Now we come back to Pakistan. When the war finished on the 10th night and we had the ceasefire in May, the Air Chief got down to his drawing board and he started to work on the 13th of May that now the war is over and we have recovered on our sleep in 1 or 2 days, and now we start to plan for the other war. Now what the Pakistan Air Force is doing is that we are looking at the future, and what we are looking for future is that first of all we are trying to enhance all the capabilities. I will not go into details and probably I cannot mention those over here, but I can tell you that if you look at what we did in our multi-domain operations, first of all we have enhanced our capability for cyber field. I think now we are 2 times or 3 times more well placed as what we were in May 2025. When you look at space, Pakistan as a country and as an Air Force also, we are going to be much more advanced by the end of this year and having our own satellites nationally and within the service also. When you look at EW capability, our EW capability has, I think, quadruplated, and that is a very big plus that we have. Then we have increased the ranges of our UAVs and our drones. So we have that capability also. And then the best thing that has happened to Pakistan Air Force, having a look at what is happening in the Gulf, that the capability to intercept and destroy the UAVs and drones is another field that Pakistan Air Force is venturing into and has successfully ventured actually. So when you look at a complete package for the future, the Air Force is ready. Now coming to the aircraft part of it. Aircraft part of it, we are manufacturing our own aircraft, PFX, the future fighter of the Pakistan Air Force, and we will be able to do extremely well as far as our manufacturing is concerned as compared to the Indians. They have had a history of a failed domestic aviation program. So we have that advantage also. Then we have the J-35, the 5th generation aircraft also coming into the Pakistan Air Force, I think should be by the beginning of next year, which is not very far away. So when you look at the future endeavors that the Pakistan Air Force has, it has a lot of surprises still to come and many capabilities. I'm sorry I'll not be able to share with you, but they are in the pipeline or have been achieved. So I think the Indians still should be keep wondering and should feel scared of us and they should have sleepless nights as far as the preparation of the Pakistan Air Force is concerned. And I can tell you with a lot of confidence that the Air Chief is making all the endeavors to give Indians another surprise. I always keep on joking with my friends that saying that India talks of Sandoor to Pakistan Air Force and the Pakistan Armed Forces have the capability of taking, till Sandoor 3 or 4 very easily.
That's very good to know, and I'd like to, on this very hopeful note, I'd like to thank you very much, Air Marshal Tahir Asim Suleiman, for joining us and sharing your very valuable analysis. I think Pakistanis will be very interested to know and very happy to know that we are ready and we still have so many more surprises with us. Thank you once again for joining.